गीता मंत्र। ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायण स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराण मुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतमृतवर्षिणी भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनी ताम् त्वामनुसन्धामि भगवद्गीते भगवद्वेषिणी। नमो अस्तु ते व्यास विशाल बुद्धे कुल अरविंद आयत पत्र नेत्र येन तव्या भारत तैलपूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमया प्रदीपः प्रपन्न पारिजाताय स्तोत्र वेत्र एकपानये ज्ञान मुद्राय कृष्णाय गीता अमृत दुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो तो गदा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर भोगता दुग्धम गीता अमृतम महत् वसुदेव सुतम देवम कंस चानूरमर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णम वंदे जगद्गुरुम भीष्म द्रोण तटा जयद्रथ जला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्ये ग्राहवती कृपेन वहने कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोरमकरा दुर्योधन अवर्तने सो तीर्णा खलु पांडवै रन नदी कैवर्तका केशवा पाराशरे वत्सरोजमलम गीता अर्थगंधोटकम नानाख्यानक केसरम हरि कथा संबोधन अबोधितम लोके सज्जन षटपदे रह पे पिए मानम मुदा भूयाद भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसी न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघ्यते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम् यं ब्रह्म वरुण इंद्र रुद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्ये स्तवे वेदै साङ्गपद क्रमोपनिषदै गायन्ति यं सामगा ध्यानवस्थे तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुषुर असुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। We are on chapter 13 in this class. Kshetra Kshetragya Vibhag Yoga. Arjun asked some questions about this terminology, and Lord Krishna gave the definition. First, he told us what Kshetra is, what a field is, beautifully with a full elaboration. Then last week we saw Kshetragya, the knower of the field, from verses 7 to 11. But what we see in those verses is that this knowledge, spiritual knowledge, which Lord Krishna is talking about, requires purification. Without purification, we cannot comprehend it. Purification of the heart. And what is heart? Is it a blood pumping organ in us? No. Philosophically, heart means inner apparatus of mind and intellect. That is heart. So we need to purify that. So that's why in these 4 verses, he describes the virtues, habits, behaviors, and attitudes that purify our life and illuminate it with the light of knowledge. So that's what we see over here, whether he talks about humility or freedom from hypocrisy or self-control or detachment, or when we look at the evil of the birth and the growth and the disease and the death, or whether we see that attachment to our children as an evil. Children, our spouse, our home, etc. So he says we got to purify ourselves with this knowledge. Okay, and he says constantly keep an eye on this. So we talked about this last week, all these qualities, and it was nice of Urmil to Give us the whole list of these qualities also, so that we can clearly see where we are weak, what we need to work on, and where our strength is. This is our homework. Now, today we're going to talk about the third thing. So it was a kshetra. What is kshetra? What is kshetragya? And now Arjun said, I would like to know what has to be known by this knowledge. In other words, what the real gyan is. So verse number 13, that's where we'll start today's class. Because all the virtues, behaviors, attitudes, which we learned about in the previous verses, they should lead to the growth of wisdom and knowledge. And what is this knowledge? He says, Geyam yat tat pravakshyami, yat gyatva amritam ashnute, anadimat param brahma, na sat tat na asat uchyate. Geyam has to be known. Yat means which, tat means that. Pravakshyami will declare. Again, yat means which, gyatva, knowing. Amritam, immortality. Ashnute, attains to. Anadimat, the beginningless. Param Brahma, supreme Brahma. Na sat, tat means that, na asat. So sat over here means being, asat means non-being. Uchyate is called. So Lord Krishna is saying, I will declare that which has to be known. Knowing which one attains to immortality. And what is that? The beginningless, supreme Brahma. So all of this purity we need to do, the studies we need to do, the sadhana we need to do to know that. And that is called Brahma, supreme Brahma. Called neither being nor non-being. So after explaining in the previous section all these steps we need to take to purify ourselves, he explains what is to be known from that. So knowing which one attains the immortal, which is without beginning. It's not that Brahma was born on certain date. It was always there. That's why it's called beyond Sat and beyond Asat also. Sat and Asat, they are two types of thought waves. Those are just the thought waves. I call it a Sat or Asat. So who gives the power to those thought waves? That is Brahma. So that's why it's called beyond Sat and Asat. So over here, Lord Krishna chose the phrase that he said, it's neither Sat not Asat. Okay? Because it is not an object. It is a subject. We'll see that in the next chapter, Lord Krishna says, Brahmano hi pratishthatam. It's like a pratishtha. Okay, Brahmano. It's like a substratum. So he says, I am the basis of the formless Brahma also. The formless, some people say formless, the other people say personal form. He says, I am the basis of that. The sustainer of all of it. Like if mind says that I believe in formless God, who is keeping those kind of thoughts in the mind? Or if somebody says I am a believer of a formed God. Both kind. Okay, so he says that is what Brahma is. So that's why it looks very contradictory to us. You will see that in future verses also, a lot of contradiction in there. And first of the contradiction is right here, is neither Sat, not Asat. So in that sense, he is talking about it, that truth can never be defined as non-existent or existent. Because existence is happening, because Sat normally we say existence. That means something which is manifested. And Asat is non-existent. Both are, we can say, only with the help of the power of Brahmanas. So in that sense, he's talking about the Sat and Asat, because they are the judgments. See, this is the judgment we make with our human mind and intellect. So Brahm is beyond that. Okay? So then in the next verse he says, Sarvata pani padam tat, Sarvata akshi shiro mukham, Sarvata shruti mat loke, Sarvam avritye tishtati. Sarvata, everywhere. Pani padam, pani means hands, padam means feet. Anybody, somebody has a question?
Yeah.
Yes, Urvi.
See, in 13:13, it says neither existent nor existent, neither manifested nor non-manifested, neither being nor non-being, neither eternal or temporal, but beyond both in all this. There are so many terms, and the one that is used here is Sat Asat, which is existent and non-existent. I am lost between this being and not being, eternal or temporal, or I don't
try
really.
to, all these terms, take your mind towards the same thing. When we say existent, something is existent or something is non-existent. Who is saying it?
Lord Krishna.
No, even Lord Krishna. But when we talk about something is existent or non-existent, how do we judge
Either
it?
you see it or you don't see it.
But who is really judging it? Our mind and intellect.
I see.
Okay, so he says this is Brahm is beyond mind and intellect.
I see.
That's what it really means.
Okay.
Because mind and intellect, they function with the light of Brahm. So Brahm is beyond that. So in that light, we should understand this verse. Okay, because today my mind is working. I can judge. Tomorrow my mind is not working. That doesn't mean, if I cannot judge, that doesn't mean God is not there. Or God is not the substratum. So that's why it's very foolish to argue about it. Whether God has a form or God is formless. Or God is here or not here. So from that point of view, this verse is spoken by Lord Krishna. He is taking our mind towards that highest concept of this supreme being. So just remember, these verses are about the Gyan, the knowledge. Because Arjun asked, what is Gyan? What is that knowledge? So he is taking our mind towards that highest Gyan, which is called supreme, the absolute, the Brahmahood. If somebody says, okay, Brahma exists, he says it can exist. You can say it exists, you can say it doesn't exist either. Because if somebody says existence is only when I perceive, non-existent is when I don't perceive. You can perceive it also, you cannot perceive it either. Okay, so he is taking our attention above the dualities. So over here, Sat and Asat is just in the dualistic point of view. All right, is that more clear now?
Yeah.
Okay. So now look at it. I mean, it's a continuation of this thought pattern in the future verses also. He says, Sarvata everywhere, Pani Padam, hands and feet. Tat means that. Sarvata everywhere. Akshi Shiro Mukham. Akshi means eyes. Shir means head. Mukh means mouth. So with eyes, head and mouth. Sarvata everywhere. Shruti Mat with ears. Loke in the world. Sarvam all. Avritya Tishtati. Avritya means having enveloped. Tishtati means exists. With hands and feet everywhere. With eyes, heads and mouths everywhere. With ears everywhere. He exists in the world, enveloping all. So somebody says, oh, I don't see God's hands and feet everywhere. So we don't see it, but God is seeing us all. We can understand only, we can hear with the ears. And when we say God can hear everything, so in that sense, Lord Krishna says, his ears are everywhere. He is omnipresent, omniscience, omnipotent. That's where those big words have come from. They are used for God. He can see everywhere. So with hands and feet everywhere, because we function with the hands. We move around with the feet. He is everywhere. Okay. So, and every eye, head and mouth, even if you want to go at a personal level, there's a God inside us, or that little small portion of God inside us. Because of that, we can see also through these eyes. And everybody else also with their own God in them. So it's like a godly element through us can see, can move, can talk. So in that sense, he says, I am everywhere. Brahm is everywhere. There's no place Brahm is not. Okay. So in the Upanishads also these kind of explanations been given for the Brahma. There's a Chandogya Upanishad. It says, Sarvam Khal Vidam Brahma. Everywhere is Brahma. And there's another statement for Brahma is Kartum Akartum Anyatha Kartum Samartha. He can do the possible. He can do the impossible. And the reverse of the possible also. So anything is possible. We can see only with the eyes. He can see without eyes. And he can see with eyes also. And he can have the eyes in the back of the head also. How do we visualize Brahma? 4 heads. So that means 4 sets of eyes also. So anything can happen with this power. Don't we say that no matter where the devotee offers the food, God eats. Anybody's house, any kind of a food, any time, he accepts food offerings made to him everywhere. Everywhere means everywhere in the universe. He hears the prayers of the devotees everywhere. Wherever the devotee may be, could be in the hospital, could be in the house, could be in the temple, could be in the funeral home, everywhere. He is the witness of all that occurs in the 3 worlds of the. If millions of devotees are praying to him at the same time, he has no problem accepting all those millions of devotees' prayers. That's what Brahm is. And these sayings are written in the scriptures. So that means it's a fact. Then he says in number 15, Sarvindriye gun abhasam, sarv indriye vivarjitam. So again, a contradiction here. This is the style of the Upanishads. See, Gita is also an Upanishad. Gita has 18 Upanishad. Each chapter is an Upanishad. Okay, so Sarvindriye gun abhasam, Sarvindriye vivarjitam, asaktam sarvabhritaja eva, nirgunam gun bhogtricha. Sarvindriye gun abhasam, shining by the functions of the senses. Abhas is shine. Okay, Sarvindriye, they say all senses. Sarvindriye vivarjitam, yet without the senses. Vivarjitam means without. Asaktam, unattached. Sarvabhrit, supporting all. Cha means and, ev means even, nirgunam, devoid of qualities. Devoid of qualities means devoid of this satvikta, rajsikta, tamsikta, the gun. Gun bhoktri, yet experiences of the or experiencer of the qualities. Cha means and. So shining by the functions of all the senses, yet without the senses. Unattached, yet supporting all. Devoid of qualities, yet their experiencer. So that's why I said it's a clear contradiction. Because it's undefinable. You cannot define Brahm. Because it is the subject in the seeker himself. That's what Brahm is. So it can only be explained in the language of contradiction. He is without material senses and seeming to possess the functions of all senses. Contradiction. Detached, yet upholding all. So this is like a relationship of detached support. Okay, who is supporting the earth? Who is supporting the sun? Who is supporting the whole universe? We cannot see God, but this is God's power which is supporting it. So relationship of detached support. See, just like where do all the waves come from? They come from the ocean. But ocean is still complete without the waves too. So we can say ocean supports the waves. Okay, so ocean is not attached to the waves, and ocean is not only all the waves. Ocean is lot more than the waves. Waves come and go. So the same way all these universes also, they come and then they go. And who is supporting it all? Brahma is. And this is the knowledge we need to attain. That's why we want to purify ourselves, so that we can really see it. It's not that it's going to come from somewhere else, it's already there. We just don't see it, we don't experience it because of the dirtiness of our mind and the intellect. So he says, clean it, clean it. Okay? So without gunas, yet enjoying all gunas. Okay, gunas are the influences of the mind and the intellect. You all are familiar with the gunas. Okay, so gunas are on the prakriti, which is also called a material energy. the matter. So the material energy is a subservient to God. Okay? Gunas are also called Maya. We are as human being Maya Adhin. And what is God? He is called Maya Atit. But he is also called Maya Adhyaksh. So gunas are, it's not that he doesn't have, see, sometimes when we look at it, Nirgun word, we say he doesn't, he's no good. No, Nirgun means he is above these gunas, the qualities. And gun means the sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. So he's the supervisor of those. Or the maya or the gunas are under him. So that's why I said that material energy is a subservient to God. And this material energy works for his pleasure to serve him. So that's why I said he is a Maya Atit or Maya Adhyaksh. And right now as human beings, we are Maya. We are under the sway of the Maya. So when we purify ourselves, this Maya does not control us. So these gunas are material and God is divine. That's why it's called it's Nirguna. So then he says, Bahiyantaha cha bhutanam acharam charam evacha suksham tvat tat avigyayam durastham cha antike cha tat. Bahi means without. That means outside. Bahi. Antah means inside, within. Bhutanam, of all beings. Acharam, the unmoving. Charam, the moving. Ev means also, cha means and. Suksham tavat, because of its subtlety. Tat means that, avigyayam, unknowable. Durstham is far. Cha means and, antike, near. That means that. So without and within all beings. So that means Brahm is inside us also, Brahm is outside of us also. So within, without and within all beings, not just human beings, all beings. The unmoving and also the moving. There are some beings who can move, some beings cannot move. So everybody. Because of its subtlety, unknowable, and near and far away is that. So this is another way he is defining or trying to bring our mind towards that Brahman. Okay. So we understand without and within all being. So wherever there's a body, mind, intellect, it's inside there and it's outside of that too. Because nothing can function without godly power. We cannot express anything. We cannot even express that I don't believe in God without godly power in us. Mouth cannot even utter those words. So within and without. Moving and unmoving. We often talk about that. So the Supreme Brahma does not walk, and yet he walks because he's far, but he's also near. He exists inside everything, but he's also outside everything. This verse is from Ishupanishad. Very similar sounding verse in Ishupanishad we did a few years ago. Okay? And we cannot perceive it or feel it or intellectually comprehend it. Why? He says because of the Suksham Tavat. Because it's so subtle. Subtler than the subtlest. See, we are familiar with these five elements. Earth, water, fire, air, and space. We have all memorized these. But if we think about it, Earth is the grossest of those all. Earth, we can smell it. It can be tasted. It can be seen. It can be heard. All those qualities are in the earth element. When we go a little above that, subtler than earth is what? Water. Water we cannot smell, pure water. If we can smell water, that means earth element is in there. Pure water you can never smell. Fire, fire cannot be tasted. And air cannot be seen. If we can see air, that means we are seeing some dirt in it. And the space has only one property, the sound. So the subtler the element, rest of these properties, they fall down. They are not there. So just these elements, among these elements, we see the difference. And Atma is, Atma, Paramatma or Brahma is even beyond these elements. So that's why he says, Suksham Tvat Tat Avikeyam. Because we know through the senses, it is beyond the senses. It is so subtle. We cannot smell it, we cannot see it, we cannot taste it, and there's no form to it. So in that sense, he is saying that it is very difficult for us to even comprehend it. Comprehend it. It's very hard for us to comprehend even Akash Tattva, the space Tattva. So how can we comprehend God? But at the same time, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So what do we need to do? We got to make our intellect subtler than the subtlest. That's why you remember, if you were in the Wednesday's classes, the progress on this path, one of the steps is called Tanu Manasi. That means subtle. Make your intellect subtle. With the grosser intellect, we understand the grossness of this world. With the subtle intellect, we understand the subtlety of this existence. See, cause is always subtler than the effect. A question there? Who has a question?
Manju Malhotra, you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Yes, Manju.
Namaste, Hershi.
Namaste,
So,
Manju.
but with the Panchikaran, all the elements have a trace of other elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in space, since it has none of these other, it's only sound.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But this is, we are not talking about Panchikaran over here.
no, that's different.
That's different. We are talking about the pure elements as they are.
Yeah, okay.
When there's a Panchikaran happen, then there's a manifestation. Okay.
Which is like now, it's a manifestation.
Yeah, this is right now manifestation. But right now
So
he's
in
just
space,
telling you that these elements as such, their qualities.
so in space, right now, there will be everything, right?
Yes.
It will have a trace amounts of other things.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll talk about, I'll go deeply into the Panchikaran, because I see that some questions about Panchikaran keep on erupting. So we'll talk in detail about that in one of these days, okay?
Okay.
So going back to this, cause is always subtler, yes, subtler than the effect. Cause. So see, when we comprehend something, we can comprehend only with the effect. effect. So cause is always, so cause is so subtle. Then effect, when we see the effect, we understand. Cause, often it just goes out of our mind. We really cannot pinpoint towards the cause. So that's why it said it's incomprehensible to the gross equipment of thought, feeling, and perception. So it is far and the near also. So that's another thing he talked about in this verse. See, the truth or the absolute or the Brahm, it's closer than the closest. See, like that screen is very close to me, closer than the fan. But something is closer than this screen is my own body. But God is closer than this body also. But then God is far and far away too. We can see that, yeah, sun is far away. God is there too. But then there are places which are farther than the sun. God is there too. So Brahm is closer than the closest and the farthest than the far. Okay. So truth exists in everywhere. There's no place where Brahma is not. Then again, he tries to explain a little differently in the next verse, 17. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu, vibhaktam iv cha sthitam, bhut bhratrihi cha tatgeyam, grishnuhu pravishnu cha. Avibhaktam, undivided. So vibhakt is divided, avibhakt is undivided. Bhuteshu, in beings. Vibhaktam, divided. Iv means as if. Sthitam, existing. Bhut bhartrihi, the supporter of beings. Tat geyam, that to be known. Grishnu, devouring. Prabhavishnu, generating. Undivided, yet he exists as if divided in beings. We often talk about it, that Brahm is homogeneous. There's no place where Brahm is not, but how do we feel it? We think God is in me and God is in you. So that's why he said undivided. It's not divided. See, just like air is everywhere, then we talk, when we build a house, we say there's an air inside the house and air outside the house. Even though air cannot be divided, it's everywhere. Then even within the house, we make different rooms. Kitchen air, bathroom air, living room air. We often talk about my temple air. It's the same air, but we think it's divided. The minute we drop off the ceiling and the walls, it's the same air. The same way, Brahm is the same everywhere, but we have divided it with our own egos. My God. We divide God. I believe in bigger God. Your God is not as good as my God. My God is more powerful than your God. So Lord Krishna says, undivided, yet he exists as if divided in beings. That is to be known. See, what should be known? Because Arjuna said, what is there to be known? He said, that's what should be known. Because it is the supporter of all beings. Nothing can be supported without it. He devours and he generates. He is a Kal also, and he is the Janmadata also. He is a Brahma also, he is a Vishnu also, he is a Shiva also. So that's what it means. Grishnu Prabhu Vishnu cha. So, I mean, look at the effort which Lord Krishna is putting, and then later on Rishi Vyasa has put in to put it into words so that we can understand Brahma. What the knowledge is, what is need to be known, and how we know it. All of it is given in a textbook for us. So it is the sporter of all. See, just like we can see the sporter, who is sporting all the plants? The earth is. And who is sporting the earth? That is God. Okay? So, and all the plants, ultimately they go back into the earth also. That's a devouring. So God's personality includes his various energies. These are the energies. When we talk about Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, those are the energies. Okay, which manifests, which transforms, which sustains also. Those are different expansions of the energies. And he says, this is to be known. That which is knowable. So theme of all of this is the knowledge. We are the seekers of the knowledge, and ultimately, this is the knowledge we need to experience. Not just only theoretical, but experience of it too. Jyoti Sham Apich Tat Jyoti.
Excuse me, Hershji.
Yes.
ये कृष्ण प्रभु विष्णु का एक बार मतलब दोबारा से बता देना.
Vishnu means devouring, grahan kar lena. Okay, where do we go? See, like we look at this body right now, our physical body, just a human body alone. Forget about other bodies. We know as a physician, you know, this body is going to last only for some time. Where will it go ultimately? Right? It will go back to God. Because all those elemental forces are forces of God. So in that sense, God is a Vishnu, devouring. It devours it. It takes it back. And again, it's created, that is called Prabhu Vishnu, generator. So he's the generator also, and he devours also. And while we are in this body right now, this how it's sustaining. He is a sustainer also. Okay, is that clear, Raj?
Yes, thank you.
Jyoti Sham Apitat Jyoti Tamasa Param Uchyate Jnanam Gyayam Jnanagamye Hridi Sarvasya Vishishtatam. Jyoti Sham, of lights. Jyoti means light. Api means even. Tat means that. Jyoti, light. Tamsa, from darkness. Param, beyond. Uchyate, is said to be. Jnanam, these are three technical terms from the Vedas. Jnanam is the knowledge. Gyayam is that which is to be known. Jnanagamya, the goal of knowledge. Hridi, in the heart. And again, the heart is a philosophical heart we are talking about. Sarvasya, of all, Vishishtatam, seated. That Brahma. See, when he talks about Tat, that. Tat Tvam Asi, that Brahma. So that Brahma, the light of all lights. If you really want to know how Brahma looks like, because we haven't seen it yet, imagine it's a light. Because it is a light. Lights of all the lights. So he says that the lights of all lights is said to be beyond darkness. It is knowledge, the object of knowledge, seated in the hearts of all, to be reached by the knowledge. Beautiful verse. So in other words, Brahm is the illuminator in all of us. This is that one consciousness by which everything is known intellectually, realized intuitively, and experienced spiritually. It is that light. When he says lights of all the lights, Sometimes we call it a consciousness. But remember, why are we calling it consciousness? Because it is the one which is lighting all the instruments in us. To see an object, it is not only sufficient that object should be in line with the healthy pair of eyes, but there should be light on the object also. Somebody has a question?
Jata?
Namaste, Hershji. I just wanted you to clarify the Jnanam Gyayam Jnana Gamyam.
Yes, I will. I'm going to get to that.
All right, thank you. Sorry.
Yes, definitely. I'm just reaching towards that. Okay. So the light of wisdom. So when he says light, so it's a light of wisdom. With this light of wisdom, we become aware of our own mental and intellectual conditions at any given moment. So sometimes you also call it a light of the soul or the self or the consciousness. So that's why in this verse it's called the light of all lights. So it's not just a light of the moon and the light of the stars and the light of the sun. It's a light of our own instruments, light of our mind, light of our intellect, light of us. Light in my eyes also, light in your eyes also. Light of all lights. Okay, so every thought is brilliantly lit in the awareness of our life. There are three unique names in the scriptures, which is called Ved Krit, Ved Vid, and Ved Vedya. Ved Krit means one who manifested the Vedas. Ved Vid means one who knows the Vedas. And Ved Vedya means one who is to be known through the Vedas. So Ved Krit,
हाँ, third one कौन सा था?
Ved Vedya.
Vidya.
One who is to be known through the Ved. Okay. So in the same manner, in this verse, Lord Krishna is using the terms Gya, Gyan Gamya, and Gyan. Gyan is the true knowledge. Gyan Gamya is the goal of that knowledge, or goal of all the knowledges. What is the goal? Gyan Gamya. And Gya is the object worthy of knowing. So what he's saying over here, Brahm, the light of all lights, is said to be beyond darkness. It is knowledge. That is Brahm. Knowledge is Brahm. The object of knowledge, why do we need to know why do we have to have the knowledge? That's also Brahm. Seated in the hearts of all to be reached by that knowledge. So our goal is Brahm. The knowledge itself, the way we want to reach it, that is also Brahm. Okay, so Gyaya, Gyan Gamya, and Gyan. So knowledge, that which to be known, and that which is to be reached by knowledge. So this is the final experience that needs to be gained. So in other words, Brahm is the final. So whether we call it an intuition, whether we call it a subtle intellect, all of that is because with the help of all these finer instruments, we need to attain that Brahmhood. So nothing but Brahm. So all the knowledges take us towards that peak or the pinnacle. And beyond darkness, normally we look at it in this world, day comes, night comes. There's a light, there's a darkness. So when we talk about Brahma, there's no darkness. It's light, only light. Okay? So because it is the source of the lights. So when we talk about self or Brahm or absolute, that is a subject. It's not an object. Object can be changed. Subject cannot be. It's an absolute light. So absolute nature of the infinite light of the soul. That's what's stated over here. Okay. And then hearts of all hearts, we normally talk about this philosophical heart. That means when we have more noble and the pious thoughts, that is called heart. Noble and pious thoughts. They come from they come from our emotions. They come from our mind. They come with the help of the intellect, but it's called, in philosophically, this is called heart. Okay. So that's why he says, dwelling in the heart of all. I mean, now you can see why before this section, he talked about all the qualities to be cultivated, those virtues to be cultivated. If we don't have virtues in our personality, then we are not moving towards the right direction. That's where all the darkness come in our personality. We do some tapasya and some powers, and the darkness, instead of helping others, will be hurting others. And at the end, we'll be hurting ourselves. Because we are no different than others. For the time being, we might think that we are hurting others and we are getting the help. But ultimately, we are all one. We get hurt too. Just like they say that if you offer a hot coal to somebody, your hand will burn too. And if you give a flower to somebody, you'll have the fragrance too. We are all one. We cannot hurt anybody without hurting ourselves first. We cannot help somebody without helping ourselves. So that's why Lord Krishna said, cultivate the virtues first. Okay. So Sujata, is it clear? You asked the question about the Gya, Gyan, Gamni and Gyan.
Actually, I was going to say that to me, it doesn't seem like that the Gyeya and the Jnana are actually different from each other. True knowledge and the object to be known. I mean,
Yeah.
true knowledge is the object, right?
That's right. Ultimately, it is all one. Goal is also the same.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I feel like. It's sort of an artificial distinction.
No, this is a distinction in the initial stages.
Okay.
Because when a seeker starts to walk on this path, they need to know what is the path, what I'm going to attain, and how I'm going to attain. When you reach up there, sure, it's all the same. Because all three are nothing but Brahma.
Okay.
But initially, you need to know what the goal is, how to reach the goal, and why do we need it. See, just like initially when you are doing the asanas, you learn how to do the asanas. You're going to learn different asanas for your head, for your arms, for your neck, for your knees, for your feet. But ultimately, the routine which you're going to do, you're going to do it. It's just like a feeling of oneness. This is my body. I'm taking care of my body. I cannot just take care of certain parts and not the other parts. Okay?
So this is for the, I mean, the distinction is being made for us.
For us, distinction is made for us because in my mind, if it comes that why I'm doing it, for that, how to do it with the help of that. Okay, because these questions do come in our mind. So that's why even when you look at the three unique names according to the Vedas, Vedkrit, Vedvid, Vedvedya, that's also all
yes.
one.
Yes, I was going to say that. To me,
it's definitely it's the same. Good point, but at the same time, we need to have, it's not just to make the to complicate the issue they have created it. It is to clarify for us.
Okay.
Okay?
One more question.
Sure.
When you say Rudi, the noble and pure thoughts, that's called the heart, basically.
Yes. Yes.
That's the same as the sattvic intellect.
Yes, it is a sattvic intellect, and he is going to explain this in the next verse.
Thanks.
Okay? What is that? See, everything is given in there. Each verse is connected with the next verse. Each chapter is connected with the next chapter. There's not even a single extra word in Bhagavad Gita. Not even a single extra word in Bhagavad Gita. Okay? So next verse he says, Iti kshetram tatha jnanam gyayam cha uktam samasata mad bhakta etat vigyay mad bhavaye upapadyate. Iti means das. Kshetram, the field. Tatha means as well as. Jnanam, knowledge. Gyayam, knowable. Cha means and. Uktam, have been stated. Samasata, briefly. So Lord Krishna is saying, I have just told you briefly. Mad Bhakta, my devotee. Etat, this. Vigyai, knowing. Mad Bhavai, to my being. Upapadyate, enters. Thus the field, as well as the knowledge and the knowable, have been briefly stated. Knowing this, my devotee enters into my being. So you become a better bhagat. When the heart is clean, emotions are pure. When you learn how to live for others, he says, you are my devotee then. That's a devotee. That really means by a devotee. Loving God means loving everybody. Because by definition, where does God reside? He says, I'm everywhere, in all the hearts. When we start loving everybody, he says, my devotee enters into me. What this entering means? That really means eternal peacefulness, because what is God? Peace, happiness, bliss, love, knowledge, all of those qualities. We say that's what God is. So devotee really means having those qualities in your personality. It's not just dying. It's a death of our own individualized ego. That has to die. And we are entering into God. So he says, thus the field as well as the knowledge and the knowable have been briefly stated. Knowing this, my devotee enters into my being. So I would like you to go back to this, what the field is. What is kshetra? What is kshetrajna? What is knowledge? Make your own notes. Try to understand it little better. So, but the question is, who among the seekers is ready or really fit for this great knowledge? This great knowledge, Gyan. That is the answer he is giving over here. The devotees alone are fit for my state. Devotees alone. We want to have a Gyan, but Gyan to become a devotee. Okay. So Lord Krishna, not only here, other places also he says. And for devotees, qualities, we already know. In order to be called a devotee, in the previous chapter, those 36 qualities, we need to cultivate those. And those qualities are no different than what he mentioned over here to purify our mind and the intellect. And it's not only in a Hindu religion or in the Upanishads, this has been talked about. Other faiths, they say exactly the same thing. Jewish Torah, it said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. You're all familiar with Ramayana. Tulsidas ji said, the Supreme Lord Ram is only attained through love. Ram में ही केवल प्रेम प्यारा. जान ले जो जानन हारा. Very simple language. He's saying the Supreme Lord Ram is only attained through love, and Ram means God, absolute, Brahm. Let this truth be known, he says. Tulsidas ji is saying, let this truth be known by all who care to know. Very popular saying, Jaan le jo jaanan hara. There's a Sikh religion. Over there, their holy book is called Guru Granth Sahib. There is a saying in there, Hari sam jag mahan vastu nahi. Prem panth san pantha. Prem means love. Satguru sam sajan nahi. Gita sam nahi grantha. This is from Guru Granth Sahib. There is no personality like God. There is no path equal to the path of devotion. There is no human equal to the Guru. And there is no scripture that can compare with the Gita. Okay? So Gita, the reason Gita, because it, again I'll tell you, it's a very scientific textbook which tells us what to do, how to do, and what will you get when you do that. And it's for everybody. It goes beyond any kinds of sampradaya, sects. It shows us the path of love, path of purification, okay? Path of oneness, the unity, we are all one. So that's why everybody talks about this. And then we are very fortunate that even during these days, we can sit together, virtually at least, and study this on a weekly basis. So I'm sure it's time now. So we'll start with verse number 20. But if you have any question, you can ask me after the chanting or next time, or I'm here online, so just call me also. You feel free to call me if you ever have to discuss something. Okay, don't be shy, please. So Manny, if you can put some chanting for a few minutes.
सबसे न्यारी न्यारी हरी हरी तेरी लीला सबसे न्यारी न्यारी हरी हरी तेरी लीला सबसे न्यारी न्यारी हरी हरी तेरी लीला सबसे जय जय नारायण नारायण हरि हरि जय जय नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि 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 ओम नमो नारायण ओम नमो नारायण हरि ओम नमो नारायण हरि ओम नमो नारायण हरि ओम नमो नारायण ओम नमो नारायण हरि ओम नमो नारायण हरि ओम नमो लक्ष्मी नारायण नारायण हरि हरि लक्ष्मी नारायण नारायण हरि हरि बोलो नारायण नारायण हरि हरि बोलो नारायण नारायण हरि हरि भजो नारायण नारायण हरि हरि भजो नारायण नारायण हरि हरि जय जय नारायण नारायण हरि हरि जय जय नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि तेरी लीला सबसे न्यारी न्यारी
Thank you, Manny. Thank you everyone for coming.